Right now, President Trump speaking with the media after meeting with House Republicans. Let's listen.
I think it was a meeting of love. There were a couple of things that we talked about specifically where some people felt a little bit one way or the other, not a big deal. And I covered them. It wasn't so much a speech. I covered certain points. And I think there was, I'd be very surprised.
You told him you were losing patience.
No, I didn't tell him. Who told you I said I'm losing?
That's what we heard inside the room.
But that's a lie. Wait a minute. Wait. Who's told you that?
What we heard from people inside the room.
Oh, really? It's totally true. I never used the term. I didn't say losing. I didn't even talk about it. In fact, it's the opposite. I think we're going to get it done. I'm not losing patience. We're ahead of schedule. Anybody that told you that is a liar. Wait a minute. I never mentioned the word losing patience because I'm not losing patience. We're ahead of schedule.
That's why I asked you.
Well, but why don't you go back to your source and tell them they're liars if the source even exists?
Passes the House.
Yeah.
Senators are already talking about making a number of changes.
Sure. Always
Is that okay?
Yeah.
You want them to swallow this bill?
In some cases, they have things that I like even better. No, it always happens. There'll be some changes. But John Thune and Mike have been very closely aligned on this. They've been moving it up together.
Apparently you said don't ask with Medicaid. Apparently you did say in the room. There is some concern among some Republicans, including Senator Josh Hawley, that this could impact benefits and that could amount to a quote hidden tax on the.
I didn't say. Here's what I said.
I'm wondering if you're.
Here's what I said. What do you want to say? I said waste, fraud, and abuse for Medicaid. If you find waste or fraud or abuse, we want to strengthen Medicaid. We want to strengthen Medicare. Waste, fraud, and abuse. The Democrats will let illegals be on. They'll destroy it. It will be destroyed. They want to have illegal immigrants be on. And if you do that, because that's not, it wasn't designed for that. Waste, fraud, and abuse.
Can you guarantee that your voters who supported the election, particularly working class voters, will not lose health insurance under this bill?
Oh, they won't lose health insurance. Not only that, remember, I'm cutting drug prices by 85%. And right now, I'm saving it. I'm saving the whole thing because I did something that nobody was willing to do. Other countries pay a tiny fraction what we do. And I instituted favored nations. We're now going to pay the lowest in the world. We're going to be the equivalent of the lowest country in the world. People go to London, they go to Canada, they go to other countries, many other countries, because they want to buy their pharmaceutical products, their drugs, at a fraction of the cost. Now we're going to have the lowest cost anywhere in the world, and nobody else would do that but me. And that might be an election by itself, might be election winning. Now, when you add that in, when you put that into Medicaid and Medicare, we've just strengthened Medicare and Medicaid. And the Democrats won't do that. You know why? Because they're taken care of by the drug companies. And the ones that are taken care of are hard line. Some Republicans get money from drug companies, and that's okay, because they're okay with it. I talked about it. The drug companies take care of everybody. It's the biggest lobby, most powerful lobby in the world. There's no lobby like that. But the Republicans are okay with it. Not only okay with it, they love it. It was time. So we're going to cut drug prices from 75 to 85, in some cases even more than that. You know, I was telling the story that, and some of you were at that news conference. I gave a news conference where I was the first one in 18 years to cut drug costs for the year. And they were like a quarter of a point to half a point less. And I was very proud of that. Now I'm cutting them by 80, 85%, because I stopped the scam. This was a scam between the middlemen and the drug companies. This was a giant scam. And by the way, and other countries, because other countries fought for this. This was a giant scam, and we're not going to have it. So remember this. Go back and tell your people, if you'd like to, that the Republican Party is cutting the cost of drugs by as much as 85%. Not 8%, not 5%, not 1%, 85%.
All right, we're listening to President Donald Trump there saying that he's not losing patience with House Republicans to get his so-called big, beautiful bill passed. And here he's being asked about potential cuts to Medicare and saying that will not impact working class Americans. We're going to continue listening to this, but we want to bring in congressional reporter Taurean Small, who's also following every twist and turn. Taurean, what stands out to you from what the president did and did not say?
Well, Errol, right as we came back to the broadcast, it's interesting that he took pause and really got heated with a reporter for questioning what was reported, including what we confirmed at CBS News, was the fact that he had lost patience for a few holdouts within what's known as the SALT caucus. These are Republicans who had expressed concerns about this proposed cap for federal deductions for state and local taxes at $30,000. They believed, including Elise Stefanik of New York, that should be a little bit higher, if not significantly higher, because of how unequal it is to states like New York, Connecticut, California, New Jersey, for example. He said that was the exact opposite of what he had told members in that room. What's interesting, though, we also caught quite a few lawmakers who came out who pretty much said what we had confirmed with a White House official, which was that he expressed frustration around the SALT caucus. It's clear that the president, or the takeaway some lawmakers, including some of his staff, have with the president's words and his aren't aligned. But what we can also infer based on readouts that we're getting from lawmakers is that the president is optimistic that this bill will move forward on that timeline that House Speaker Mike Johnson originally put out, which is Memorial Day weekend. We've been tracing and tracking where some of the previous skeptics stand, like Representative Tim Burchett. It sounds like he's leaning toward a yes based off of what he told our reporters when he left the room. He says that he's still open and he's not all the way there yet, but he is at least open and is leaning toward a yes. I do want to point out Representative Andy Harris. When he left, he said, quote, "The president, I don't think, convinced enough people that the bill is adequate the way that it is." So there still are some people who are holding the line. Potentially Chip Roy of Texas. He was a key player when it came to that very big and pivotal House budget vote that we saw on Friday that ultimately failed to move this reconciliation bill out of committee. After conversations over the weekend, he and 3 other Republicans voted present to lower that threshold and move it to the floor for a vote, or ultimately to the Rules Committee, which will be voting on it early Wednesday morning at 1 a.m. Before it goes to the floor for a vote, Errol.
All right, Taurean Small giving us his analysis from Capitol Hill as President Trump concludes his remarks to the press following a meeting with House Republicans to get a key part of his agenda across the finish line and past. Taurean, thank you so much.